joining the series of Lives for New Teachers. I'm Stacy, the Teacher Marketing Manager at ClassTag, and I'm joined by some amazing ladies who are going to introduce themselves. Ladies.
Yeah, so my name is Sam Hall. You guys have probably seen me quite a few times in the previous years. I have shifted over to product marketing for ClassTag, or product uh, management. Sorry, I went marketing on that. But yeah, we still love product marketing. It's good stuff. So yeah, and I'll let our other guest.
I'm Melissa. I am a fourth-year teacher in Texas.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining me tonight so we can talk about the thing that we all know so much about, burnout. This is an issue every year for really any profession, but I think for first-year teachers, this is really, really bad. So we've seen the stats, we've seen the numbers. I've had my run-ins with burnout, and I'm pretty sure y'all probably have too at some point. So why is it, in our world right now, especially, what is it that makes burnout so bad, do you think?
So my personal opinion on this, especially your first year teaching, I think some teachers come into the profession wanting to be perfect or to figure it all out the first year, and that always does not happen. So you spend your first year really trying to overachieve and doing more than you intended to, and by the end of the year, you're pretty much done, and you think that what the heck? Why did I choose this profession? That's my personal opinion, and that's me taking on more than I can handle sometimes as well, because I'm trying to be a perfectionist. So yeah, that's how I feel about it, if that helps.
And to piggyback on what Sam said, it's not even just that need to be perfect. It's that desire to want to excel in general, and not being able to understand that you don't have to do it all, and it's okay to either ask for help or whatever it is. That just, you have this insane need to be like, no, I'll figure it all out by myself.
Right. And I have to even kind of comment on that, because I luckily had a really great set of mentors my first year who were like, you don't need to have everything. And they came and gave me a lot of stuff. So I always feel like the teaching profession, luckily, first year teachers, it's okay to steal. That is an okay thing in teaching. You can totally take resources, and other teachers are more than happy to help you out. They're not going to leave you they're not going to just leave you to your own devices and try to figure it out. You don't have to do it all. It's okay.
Yes, absolutely. That's a wonderful point. I'm going to bring another wonderful teacher in here who's going to join us real fast. Hi, Jaren.
Hi.
To the audience.
Hopefully my tech is all working today. And so I am a kindergarten teacher. This will be my 17th year in kindergarten. So I can offer kind of the perspective from the lower level. It is slightly different, but there are some similarities to our peers up at the middle school level. Self-care looks different for everybody. That's something that has been a hard lesson for me to learn during the pandemic, because everybody keeps saying like, oh, take care of yourself, don't burn out, do this, do that. This is what I do. This is what you need to do. But I'm kind of different in that aspect, and I need to do things that aren't usually the recommendations of everyone else. And so what you have to do is find things that make you happy and do them, and it's not going to be the same for everybody. So you always answer to yourself first and do what makes you happy.
I think that's a great way to say it. And, I will be the first to admit that I am terrible at self-care. Terrible. And it's something that I've been working on for a very long time, and I'm better than I used to be. But, it's easy to get married to your job because you, like you said, you want to do it perfect. You want to do it right. You want to do all the things. You got to accept you can't do all the things, though. I had to accept that when I went home at the end of the day, there was still going to be a to-do list. There were still going to be things that I didn't finish. And that's okay. You got to come to peace with the fact that you cannot do it all. And that's hard. Do you think?
Yeah, I think accepting that it sounds easy, but when it comes down to it, we hear, but we don't always understand, kind of like our students.
I think teachers are fixers and we want to fix all the problems in the world.
Yes, we do.
There's not enough time in the day for that.
I
so
don't think that leaves you when you leave teaching, by the way. Like, I think when you're a teacher, like knowing that I'm, Stacy and I were former teachers, that does not go away. We still want to fix all the problems.
Exactly. And I still find myself struggling with the whole work-life balance thing, just as much as I did in teaching. So I'm a work in progress. But I think that was the thing that I struggled with the most, was at the end of the day saying, okay, it's okay that I'm not done. Here's my list of things for tomorrow, and moving on from there. So when you leave at the end of the day and you know you have things to do tomorrow, how do you organize that? How do you prepare yourself for the next day?
I always leave my papers for the next day in a pile on my desk. It's always helpful for me to have a clear desk when I leave, and a pile. If you have children of your own, it's helpful to do that. You never know what's going to come the next day. And then piggybacking on that, the pandemic has taught us that you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You might wake up and test positive. And in order to keep your community safe, your classroom community, your family, you might have to stay home for a few days. And teachers are a profession that we take ourselves to work sick a lot. We know that writing sub-plans, it's probably easier to drive yourself to work sick a lot of the time. Personally, it takes me hours to write sub-plans because I want that day to go well, because if it doesn't, the next couple of days are probably going to be a little more difficult for me, just because the kids are going to be out of routine. It's not anyone's fault, but, and I do have, my control over my routines and things, like we all do. And we don't want to miss a day of instruction when we're out. But the pandemic taught us to slow down a little bit, put other things into perspective. So I always try to leave a pile of things on my desk with some extras on the bottom, and it'll just have a note over it that says extras. And if I can't be there, then they'll go through that pile, and it's going to be okay. There are certain parts of the curriculum that a substitute isn't going to do well with, because I have specialized training for that, like our phonemic awareness and phonics. So we have a little pile of phonemic awareness and phonics activities that are just printables that they can practice, but they're not going to miss it. So we have them by season, so that if there's an emergency, you're not asking yourself, do I go? Do I stay? Like, does my teammate have to do it? So find some communication with your team and say, like, what can we do to make that a little bit easier?
Yeah, that struggle is real. That am I really sick enough to write a lesson plan for a sub? Or am I really sick enough to find a sub? That was such a struggle for me this last school year, because there were way too many teachers out and not enough subs to go around. And so that was hard. I mean, there were times I spent hours trying to find a sub. What's a lot?
What do you mean find a sub? What does that
They make
mean?
you find? Yeah, did they make you find a sub?
You have to find subs where
Oh no!
Find your sub.
We did not have to do that.
Well, that should not be a thing. Teachers that are listening, that really shouldn't be the norm. So we can get the word out to like the state level, maybe national level. We really should have a system in place where sick teachers aren't searching for their own help, because that really adds an extra layer of stress to you. So, girls, sorry about that. We use a sub placement agency, but oftentimes we didn't have subs either. So unless you knew you were really sick, or you'd be like, I know if I call off, no one's going to have specials today, and everyone's going to miss their prep, and it's a struggle. But again, you answer to yourself first, and if you're really sick, you have to stay home, because if you're not well, you're not going to be bringing even half of you to school. Isn't going to be enough, and it could put you out for a longer amount of time. So certainly you don't want to be, making it a goal to use all of your days, in the first 9 weeks, unless you're really sick, because sick days are for being sick. But don't go to work if you're really not feeling well. You shouldn't have to start your career off with that guilt of, I have to go to work when I'm sick. that's not the mindset that you want to have. But if you are sick, it's important to stay home.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And I hated being that teacher that, I knew there were like no subs. There were 5 teachers already out. So I'd go to work and then I'm like, okay, I need to stay away from the children. I need to keep my sickness over here. And it makes it really difficult to help kids when you're sick and you don't want to go near them. So save yourselves, save your children, don't go to school. Now, for those first year teachers, should they be afraid of burnout? And why or why not?
Burnout to me is a real thing, and it's not just trying to be perfect. It's also called compassion fatigue. Like, we take every little thing that happens to our kiddos, and even the ones who get transferred or they move classes or whatever it is, they're still ours. And so if anything goes wrong, we take that a little personal, and it's like teachers are empaths, and that sucks out whatever's kind of left. So you have to find something to fill up that reservoir that's already emptied every day. Compassion fatigue. You have to find something on top of a good plan for you, going to take it a step at a time and don't get overwhelmed.
Yeah, it looks like someone said, chatting with friends. That actually helped quite a bit. I think more than any other place I've ever worked in my life, teaching was great to have like your teacher buddies. Like, you have a teacher bestie or a teacher buddy where you're just like, this day was crazy and I love my students and they were crazy today, or I love my students, this is what happened and I need to talk about it, because it gets you like you said, it gets emotional and you really care about those kids. And you don't get like the control. Once they leave your class, that is it. And funny story, as a senior, I taught seniors for a few years. Seeing them on Facebook later, I'm like still having anxiety. I'm like, I hope your life is going okay. It never ends.
Right.
And speaking of Facebook, that's something good to mention to new teachers too, is that you don't want to be airing your grievances publicly on social media. You can be frustrated. It's possible to take a lot of your job home with you, and because you're human, and every human does that. But you don't want to be on social media, even if you think you have everything locked down in private. Words are words, but screenshots last forever. And if you don't know who's going to read that, and it does get back to your boss, your school board, your community, your parents. You don't, even if you think you're being, you're not revealing names or you're being really careful, you don't want to write about your school or your students on social media. That's not the way to do it. You want to relax and talk about your day, but you're not going to be, violating confidentiality and things like that. As a new teacher, you really want to make sure that you learn the right way to do that. There's definitely a very careful, fine line balance that you need to find. So you don't want to get stuck in that in the very beginning. So.
Good point, Jen. And I think for definitely my first few years, I don't even think I did so like. I didn't even talk about teaching on social media at all. Like everyone knew I had a teaching job, but I just didn't talk about it. And then you find your teacher friends, and there's ways to keep things confidential, students confidential. You don't have to give names. But I think that's a great point, especially for first year teaching. You're not really familiar with that line yet, and you kind of have to learn over time. But still, your teacher, the people you're working with are really great resources.
Definitely.
Yes. And on top of that, for sure, first year teachers, and it was hard for me. It was hard for me up until about 2 years ago. Once you find those people, those besties, whether they're in school or out of school, it doesn't really matter. But once you have them, please use them. That is going to help you with getting that, I call it the poison, getting the poison out. It's not going to keep sitting there. It's not going to keep draining you. It's out. It's done. So definitely use that resource.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, we all have our teacher friends and we talk to them because, you don't want to take all that stuff home. One thing that I did a lot this year, because it was a frustrating year, was I only lived like 5 minutes from my school. So that drive was not long enough for me to just kind of let it all go. So I would just sit in my driveway for, 15, 20 minutes a day. And at the beginning of the year, my husband would text me and be like, "Are you okay?" But by the end of the year, he knew what I was doing. So he just waited till I decided to come inside, because that just let me kind of chill out, get the stress out before I came into my family, because I didn't want to bring that home. I didn't want to bring it home to my kids. And I mean, in any job, you're going to have stressful days. It just is the nature of things. The other thing I will say for new teachers, learn the full moon schedule. Now, you will get when you do this without even looking, and every experienced teacher knows exactly what I mean. We'll explain in just a second. But learn the full moon schedule, get some sleep around that time. It's very important, because what happens on a full moon? Kids lose their minds.
Things you don't want to imagine.
No.
And never ever say, "Oh, I've seen it all," because you haven't.
No, you
I
haven't.
haven't. So true.
It's just a challenge to like the things that be to add more fun to your day.
I made happy songs playlist
I
on
like
Spotify.
it.
Yeah. I love it. I'm the same way. Like I have a like all my Spotify playlists are like emotions, and I had one for teaching, like definitely to decompress. And I was very thankful for my 20-minute drive home when I taught.
Oh, I use them in class. We do brain breaks and things in class for things like that too. And sometimes I participate in the brain breaks because it's important for the students to see that you're a person too, and that we can all practice, taking a little break from things too.
Mm-hmm.
Stacy, I think you're on mute. Maybe it's just.
Yes, I am. My bad. Long day. Here, look at me over here. So
I just thought it was connection again.
Right. Internet's lovely when it works. We give our kids brain breaks all the time, right? As teachers. Do we give ourselves one though?
Honestly, I can tell you that I really don't, unless I'm forced to. My husband is very observant that way, and sometimes he's like, "No, you're not.
And that's a good question.
This is what we're doing instead, and you're going to do it."
Yeah. So why do we not give ourselves brain breaks? If we know it's important for children, and for their, to keep their cognitive processes going, why are we not doing this for ourselves?
I think that's teacher guilt for sure. I will sit there and it's teacher guilt, mom guilt, whatever. And I'm just like, but no, there shouldn't be a but. And I'm still learning that, and I still struggle with it all the time. But you have to know that it's vital. Your brain needs a break, just like everybody else's.
Well, the word hangry wasn't invented for no reason. So, I mean, even little kids can say, like, "Sorry, I'm hangry right now," and like, "Please forgive me for what I say next." So, we've even identified our feelings with actual words beyond just the regular range of them, knowing that when we're hungry, we might be a little more grouchy than usual. So I think if you can incorporate yourself into, and it's a little easier for the primary and elementary teachers because, not easier, just a broad term, because you have the kids all day and you can tell when your class is going to need a break. Like, okay, we're all going to the restroom. Well, it's not restroom time. Well, we're going to all go now because it feels like we all need to take a break. Everybody just needs to go for a walk. Or you can put a quick brain break on, and Coach Corey Martin has some excellent brain breaks that they're active. You can tell when your kid's like, everybody's kind of fidgety. We're going to do one where we're doing a virtual race, and you don't have to do it, but it gives everyone's brain a break, even if your body doesn't move with it. So, and then sometimes they shout out the teacher and ask the teacher to do things too, so you get involved whether you wanted to or not. And those it just gets you out of your shell. If you're not that outgoing, loud personality in big groups, and you don't have to be. So it just gives you a chance to try out different things with your class, and you might find something that you really like. And with different classes, your personality might change too.
Yeah, and I want to add, I'm an introvert, so I would take the opportunity. Sometimes I would take a few days at lunchtime, and instead of going to the teacher lounge, you don't have to, where I was anyways, and I just would sit in my classroom and kind of decompress. And that's okay. Like, don't feel bad about it. It's okay to do that. And there was also, I was very lucky and I had prep time. The first 10 minutes of prep time, I would just kind of chill and just come down from it and then be like, okay, now I've reset myself. Now I can start to work. By doing that, I think what we guilt ourselves so bad, but honestly, you give yourself a 10-minute break, you're going to come back and your brain's going to be ready to go. And just like your kiddos, like, you need to get out that energy. You need to chill out a little bit. And then when you come back, you can be ready to go.
And in my school, we had, it wasn't, I don't tend to take my prep time that way. I kind of wish I thought about it, but I immediately go with that. But our librarian, the last 2 years, she was a dream come true. It's for like 15 minutes and she would do, what she was reading or whatever. And she would do a whole lesson. And she would be like, you're going to sit in your room and you're going to do nothing. You don't get to be out here with the kids. I don't need you.
That is great. That is awesome.
Our boss does that from time to time. She'll do a read aloud with the classes, and she just wants to get to know the kids a little better. And our assistant will do that as well. And they'll be like, go to your room. And we don't need to know what you're doing. If you're planning, whatever, just take a little break and, just have a few minutes where you're not responsible for something because you need it. So it's important to know that you need a break. And I like what you were saying, Sam, about how you know yourself. And it's okay to tell your new teammates that, like, listen, this is me. And I know this about myself. It's okay to tell people that about yourself, because then they'll know who you are coming into a conversation or a meeting. Or if you tell them, like, listen, when I go into big group meetings, I get really, really nervous, and I don't like when I get called upon and speaking in front of the group. Then your mentor or your teammates can help you with speaking. Or if you love speaking in front of the group, they'll know that too. But if you really do know things about yourself, it's great to share them. Don't keep that to yourself, because those are strengths about yourself. And even if you don't feel like they are, people will respect that about you. And if they don't, that's them and not you. But let people know, and then they'll know to focus on those things about you.
And I think too, on the subject of knowing yourself, on those days where you're just really frustrated or you're really anxious and you can't, it's okay when someone walks in your door to be like, I really can't right now. I need a little bit. I'll come find you later. I've had to do that this last school year, because there were just moments that I needed a moment to myself to get it back together. And knowing that about yourself, and I've never had a person be like, really? I mean, they've always been like, okay, just come find me whenever you have time. We all get it. We're all people. We all have those moments. So it's okay to be honest about that and be like, I just need a minute, and I will come find you when I get myself together.
And adding on to that, you can tell the kids that too, maybe not as directly, depending on their age. But I suffer from migraine disorder, and there are days when I know that if I take my medicine that I'll feel better in a little while, so I can go to work. But I can say to the kids, I have a headache this morning, so we're going to leave some of the lights off. And they know that I'm doing the best I can, or if I forget a word in a sentence, sometimes that happens, they know that they can help me out with that, or they can help with small things around the room, or if you didn't get enough sleep last night. If I know some of you in the Midwest are used to getting storms and things like that. In the East, we don't get storms like you do, but we do think of you guys all the time when those big storms roll through, or, there's hurricanes and things like that. When there's big events happening, weather related or whatnot, what's going on in your community, and that kids have different things that might be affecting them. And you can say, I didn't get enough sleep last night. Did you guys get woken up by all that thunder? I'm tired today. which they always say, I'm tired. I'm like, well, I'm the president of the Tired Club, but you are welcome to be a member with me. We can all talk about how we need a nap today. So be honest with the kids, but like, it's not a pity party. We're all going to make the best of our day, no matter how we feel. We're here. We're gonna do the best we can.
So we've talked about, tips to avoid burnout, the things we got to accept, things we need to do. We talked about being honest with your kids, like be honest with the students, they get it. But what about parents? Where does that relationship with parents come in helping new teachers to avoid burning out?
Well, I use office hours for that on Class Tag. That was one of my favorite things. They have an office hours feature. Even if you don't think you need them, set them up. It makes clearly established boundaries. It sends a message to the parents, and it's not overly forceful. It just is a little message at the top that says, the teacher is not available right now. They'll get your message when they see it, and they'll get back to you. Something that's an emergency to a parent may not be an emergency on your part, but then again, it might be. You can check in on your time. It's important to start establishing boundaries, or that's when you're going to start feeling that burnout pretty early on in your career. And we don't want that for you. We want you to hang around and make a difference in the lives of your students and community.
And jumping off of what Jen said, I was very clear about my boundaries at the beginning of the year. I would tell parents, hey, these are the hours you can expect me to, reach out, or you can reach out to me. Expect X amount of time. For me, it was 24 hours, like basically business hours before I would get back to you. So there was very clear boundaries on what they could expect from me and when. And I never had a problem after that. After I kind of said, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what you can expect from me. And I made sure to adhere to it. I never had a problem with a parent. So establishing them early is, I think, like key to making that happen over time.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go about it is, start with, these are my boundaries. And you know what? It doesn't just help the parent know when you're available. It helps you to not be available 24/7. Because if you've set that thing, you set your office hours in Class Tag, it's not going to notify you. If you don't see the message, you're not going to feel compelled to answer it at 10 o'clock at night. So I set those for more myself than anyone to make myself stop. And it's bad that I have to do this to myself, but I know that I do.
Same.
And you want to, because you feel compelled, but and then I have to remember, not all parents are 9-to-5ers. I have my overnight nurses. So yeah, they might answer at 2 a.m. and they mean it out of the goodness of their heart and they don't expect a direct answer. But in me, I'm trying to be the best teacher ever and trying to give them answers when I'm waking up at night and 3 a.m. That is not the time, guys. It's not the time.
And that's the other thing. We're not judging anybody. We're not judging parents. We're not judging you. We're not judging each other. We're just trying to say, you have to make your own boundaries. Again, you're responsible to yourself. Make sure that you are putting your mental health, your physical health first, because if you're not, then you're not going to be able to finish your job during the day, be there for your family, and stay in it for the career that you fell in love with at one point.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So to sum it up, what are your top tips for teachers of maybe what to do or what not to do as far as self-care and not burning out?
Well, I'd like to mention that go ahead, Melissa. Go ahead. You can finish.
One of the top things for me, and I know it sounds bad if you're coming in as a first year teacher, you don't have to grade everything. You really don't. It is not necessary. The kid, honestly, I'm a middle school teacher. The kid is going to throw it in the recycle bin or it's going to go die in the bottom of their backpack. It's okay if you don't grade everything. And it's okay if take a literal day, a mental day, and just be like, you know what? I need a day at home without judgments of just being like, you know what? I just need this. That's okay. That's self-care. If your body or your brain is telling you, listen, I can't do this, you have to listen.
Now, self-care on a work day would not be like shopping at the mall and posting pictures of yourself doing that, but certainly resting at home and recovering for sure. That's a line that gets blurred sometimes in our field, and we get a lot of bad press for that, and that adds to our guilt then. Sometimes those friendly sites and groups online, people take that stuff out of context. We are people too. It's okay to have mixed feelings some days. It's a hard job because our product is people. It's hard to take that in all day, every day. There are some apps like Calm and Moshi that are relax. They calm, there's music, there's like little lessons, yoga. They're free for teachers. You can sign up with your school account so they can help you calm down as well. I just try to always be positive with my parents too, because that cuts down on your burnout if you try to keep your connections with your parents positive. And I use ClassTag for that all the time. I always am. I'm here to help you. We're on the same team. ClassTag keeps that relationship positive for me, and I send out announcements frequently so that parents don't have to feel like I need to send a message. Or if I get 2 messages about the same question, I just send a message out to everybody. If a bus leaves the school late, I send a message out to everybody about that. I noticed in the new templates that we have, that's one of the messages. I must not be the only teacher that worries about these things. So, things like that, just small housekeeping items. You can use ClassTag for that. And those things will cut down on your burnout, because if you've had a long day and then 7 messages come in all at once, that can make you feel really overwhelmed.
Definitely. And you guys both covered it really well. I guess the only thing I would add is, set your expectations early, not just with parents, but with students. Jen, you even mentioned it. You're very clear with your students. Hey, I'm having a rough day, or I'm having X day, or I'm feeling this way. I think that's really important for students' social emotional learning on top of self-care. So it kind of works double there. And I think I would actually also add, and this is to go, like Stacey, you asked this question, like, what do you do at the end of your day to kind of wrap up your day and, kind of reset for teachers? This is more practical advice, and something I kind of learned at the very last end of my teaching career is that, that checklist is never going to end. So it's okay, write what you need to write, get it all out, and leave it for tomorrow morning, and don't dwell on it. Just leave it there. It's okay. That checklist is never going to go away. You're always going to have a checklist, and it's okay that it's not done.
Sometimes I write silly things on my checklist just so I can cross something off, like like eat lunch. Oh, did that today.
Right, something you're going to do anyways. Makes you feel good.
Right, hopefully.
Right, and you better eat lunch. Lunch is good, guys. eat your food.
Celebrating success is a huge thing.
So true.
Oh, go ahead, Melissa. Go ahead.
Oh, I think you cut out, Melissa.
I probably did. I said nobody needs a hangry teacher. No one needs a
hangry teacher. And keeping little like candies or something that you snack on your desk is great to avoid that hangriness.
That is self-care. That is
self-care.
Yes, keeping chocolate in my desk was my self-care. But there's something else I didn't. You're gonna laugh. It sounds ridiculous. There's this app that I use called Habitica, and it's like rewarding you for adulting.
Yes.
And
I love Habitica. Yes. Nerd teachers unite.
Yes. Adulting. This is huge. It's a little thing where I could celebrate. I did something. I adulted today, and feel like I did something. So it's those little things that make you happy. You got to find them and use them. So I want to thank you ladies for joining me today, and everyone out there watching, thank you so much for joining us. If there's a question you have that we didn't answer, put it in the chat. You can comment after, and we will be checking those comments and responding. We've also got a blog coming with some great ideas and some apps. So stay tuned for that, and we will see you back next week. Bye.
I would like that adulting app, please.
Yes, I will link it for y'all. Bye, everybody.